Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to This Week in Renewables, your bite-sized roundup of the renewable stories over the last 7 days. Wind, hydropower, solar, anything renewables we discuss. As per usual, I'm your host, Mr. Deji Ogunshola, the voice you can trust. Don't forget to do the good stuff, the like, comment and sharing. It really does help with the visibility of this podcast. Now, it wouldn't be right if we did not discuss the current Cop27 event, which is happening this year in Egypt. For those who are unaware what the COP stands for, it stands for the Conference of Parties, and it is the United Nations Conference on Climate Change. It takes place every year and will bring together around 200 countries to present their plans to reduce carbon emissions. As I said, this year's 27th conference is known as Cop27. Likewise, last year was Cop26. Why is it important? Well, in last year's Cop26, we saw the hottest day of the year in the UK, devastating floods in Pakistan and disastrous weather across the African continent. All extreme weather that we now know is a result of human activity. That is a fact, no matter what anyone else tells you. Temperatures have already risen 1.1 C, but it is creeping as far up to as 1.8 C. The IPCC, which is the International Panel on Climate Change, estimates that half of the world's population to be exposed to life-threatening heat and humidity. Now, to prevent this, the 194 countries signed the Paris Agreement in 2015, pledging to commit global temperatures rise to 1.5. Now, COP27 is a chance for all the countries invited to present and discuss their updated plans on how they're going to reduce their carbon emissions as to reach a net zero by 2050. So you're going to hear a lot of governments pledging to do X, Y, Z. You'll be hearing from environmental charities, community groups, business think tanks, among others. So there's been a lot happening. So probably next week I've decided I'm going to do a kind of COP27 detailed debrief. But that's just to kind of give an idea of what's happening in Egypt. There's been lots of stuff that's been happening, some of which I'm going to touch on very briefly, but next week I'll give more thoughts and into that. Moving on to the renewable stories over the last 7 days, just to touch up on some solar news. And Solar Duck has been awarded the world's largest hybrid offshore floating solar plant at the offshore park in Netherlands, and that is by the name of the Hollands Kust West. The company will build a 5 megawatt demonstrator with innovative integrated energy storage solutions, with the project due to become operational in 2026. So really interesting news. Delivering this project will enable Solar Duck to scale faster, reaping the associated cost benefits and ultimately accelerate commercial projects at grid scale. It's really interesting news coming by way of Netherlands on solar. More news on the solar side, and Sonnedix, they have entered the Portuguese PV market. As I said, they've officially expanded into this Portuguese market with the acquisition of a 263 megawatt solar PV portfolio. Now, the portfolio itself is consistent of 7 ground-mounted projects under construction or late development, with the cumulative capacity of 262 megawatts throughout the country. During its first year of operation, these projects are expected to produce approximately 415 megawatts an hour, a year of clean electricity, capable of powering 137,000 homes and avoiding over 76,000 tons of CO2. Now, this acquisition is its first entry into the Portuguese, adding diversification to Sonnedix portfolio and strengthening its position in Europe. So congratulations to Sonnedix and all those involved. Sonnedix at this moment currently has a total capacity close to 8 gigawatts worldwide, including a development pipeline of more than 5 gigawatts. So really interesting news. Some additional news on the solar side, and 2 German companies have joined forces to develop and build 500 megawatts of solar capacity in the country over the next 5 years. Now, the joint venture is involving Akari, a project developer of photovoltaic plants, and Vestinas, an investment company set up by the Doric Group and its shareholders. The long-term partnership will aim to develop solar parks throughout Germany. The first 5 projects are expected to be ready for construction in the first half of 2023. So congratulations again. Moving on from solar to some wind energy news. Not much to report on, but some good news coming by way of ABO Wind. They have connected its first wind farm in Poland to the grid. The Donobora, apologies for my pronunciation, is located in the southern part of Polska province, in the areas of 2 municipalities of Barano and Kepno. It's 9 Siemens Gamesa SG114 turbines have a total output of 20 megawatts and supply as much as green electricity would to take 15,000 households consume. In addition, the wind turbines will avoid the emissions of more than 37 tons of carbon dioxide annually. Junior project manager Alexandra Sklarek recently commented that we are proud to have reached this milestone and to make a tangible contribution to Polish energy transition. So really good news coming by way of ABO Wind and Poland as they connect their first wind project up to the grid. Some final news on the wind side. Masdar, who I've talked about several times in the past, they have signed an agreement with Egyptian partners to develop 10 gigawatts of onshore wind projects in the North African country. So really interesting news, quite in theme being that we have the Cop27 in Egypt. President His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan and President Abdel Fattah El Sisi of Egypt witnessed the signing of the agreement between Masdar along with its Infinity Power joint venture with Affinity, Egypt's main renewable energy developer, and Hassan Alam Utilities to develop the project. The Memorandum of Understanding was signed by Sultan Ahmed Al Haba and UAE Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology. So really interesting news, and it'll be good to see how these projects progress over the next couple of years. Last but not least, some hydropower news, and major hydro complex moves ahead in Indonesia, Kalimantan. Japanese trading house Sumitomo Corporation has signed a partnership agreement with an Indonesian partner of Power China, and this is to develop a hydro complex jointly on the island of Borneo with an estimated cost of $17.8 billion. Very impressive. A bit more on the project. The project will include the construction of 5 dams along the Cairn River with a combined generation capacity of 9 megawatts each, which would make it the largest hydroelectric complex in Southeast Asia, if fully completed. Indonesia's largest hydropower station at the moment is the Kerata plant in West Java province with a capacity of 1 gigawatt. So really interesting news there. Finally, keeping on the theme of COP27, the UK and Kenya agreed to fast-track dam projects following their meeting at the event. During the COP27 Climate Summit, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Kenyan President Mr. William Ruto have agreed to fast-track 6 green investment projects worth 50 billion KES, including the Grand High Force project. The leaders agreed on the 6 projects which span the green energy, agriculture and transportation to accelerate the flow of climate finances into Kenya. So really good to see some positive meetings happening at COP27. That, my friends, rounds up this week in Renewables. Short and sweet, under 10 minutes as always. Don't forget to like, comment and share. I've been your host, Mr. Deji Okunshila. You can find me on LinkedIn and all other streaming platforms. Keep it green, keep it clean. Have a wonderful week ahead. Take care. Goodbye.